spawning locations. Swarm hosts are, or could be a problem for HuK. However, if it's cross-map, that's a little less likely. Either way, we are ready with HuK versus viOLet. It's coming up right now.
Very excited for this best of 3. viOLet, you know, we spent a lot of time talking about HuK as kind of a player, his ups and downs, and what he likes to do stylistically. But viOLet, for very different reasons, had his own ups and downs. One of the big storylines, is no mistake, is viOLet is just kind of returning to the consistent pro gaming scene. He was having visa issues as a Korean citizen living in the United States competing, and that complicated things, and it made his pro gaming life very difficult. But that's now in the past. His agency represented him very well. They were able to secure for him a competitive visa that's allowing him to stay here and compete, and that's what I get excited about. Is viOLet can step into any tournament, and you have to talk about him as a threat to win that thing. This is one of his first coming back since that visa issue, and I'm really excited to see what he can do.
I'm just fixing the scoreboard real quick, yeah.
All right.
I'm not very experienced with this.
Kevin is doing some scoreboard stuff, as he said. It could translate to literally anything. I'm not sure.
I've got it. I've got it.
You got it.
It was like a hidden combination of a couple of things, but it's
HuK
been a while.
The casters.
As you guys can see, we are using the game hard overlay right now. We apologize that we weren't using that for the first series, but everything was thrown off a little bit by some of the technical difficulties that we faced. And apparently one of us can hear us as well.
Yeah, that's HuK.
Oh,
he said he's kidding, but now we don't know.
No. And now he still says.
But now he says he can't. Anyways,
because viOLet
the ups and downs of HuK, man, it's everywhere. It's not only in game, but it's also in his ears, apparently. We're going to get that sorted out. But yeah, to touch on Kevin's point here, too, we have had some issues. We can't ignore it, pretend it didn't happen. But they're figuring it out, and hopefully we'll have a whole day of StarCraft 2. And it's been a rough start, but as long as we get the sound ironed out, which I think we're getting closer to, and as long as we get these games consistently going, then that's all I can ask for is consistent, awesome StarCraft 2. Because they've got an amazing cast of players here. Stefano is in the house. Not only is he a Lone Star Clash 3 champion and obviously kind of a legend in that regard, but he's also playing from retirement. He's on a little bit of a vacation right now, which I'm excited about. You don't get to see this guy play very much, especially in the competitive scene, but he brings that special swag that only Stefano can. Especially
on this stage as well, because we even have White in that tournament. Like
I know, yeah.
I read one of the comments on Reddit the other day. It said, like, how 2012 is this? We have, like, Rachel on the tournament.
Rachel's here hosting,
Rachel's here, then we have Stefano, White, HuK. It definitely feels very traditional and very fun to be here. So yes, we had a rocky start, but hopefully it's still going to be a very fun weekend of StarCraft. A lot of money on the line as well, $7,500 for first place.
15,000 in total. I think there's even WCS points to be given away, 400 of those. It's a very meaningful tournament. Austin, Texas. I actually saw someone tweeted, it might have been, it was either you or Smix or something like that. They were like, hey, I'm happy to be in Austin, Texas. And Fear from our Dota team at EG, he too was like, screw you guys. Last time I was there, it was raining. We have a golden, beautiful sun. We have awesome weather. It's just an awesome pleasure to be here. But we got the game underway. We're here. It's Frost, and you were saying, you were wondering about the positions. Well, it's pseudo-close positions, and this can be very tough for Swarmos, because as Kevin was saying, if you think about it, if you look, you got your Zerg player top left, if he takes that third that's kind of more towards the middle of the map, or honestly even the one that's towards the top of the map, those Swarmos can simultaneously defend and apply pressure to third and fourth base locations for the Protoss player. And anytime a map allows for that, defending and attacking from the same position, very difficult to overcome.
Of course, our blue Protoss spawning on the right top side of the map, representing the Evil Geniuses, a team that I believe you are slightly familiar with.
I'm super biased for them.
He's playing under a barcode account, but we all know that it's HuK.
And yes, as the players are signifying here, we did have a return to the North American server, so a bit of a tip of the hat to Polton Cats for enduring that in that first round, but it's a thing of the past. So let's go ahead and introduce HuK's opponent, the top left-hand side, the Red Zerg. It is viOLet. And last I saw of viOLet, stylistically, he wasn't too terribly far off from being kind of a version of HuK, if you will. Very roach-heavy, very aggressive. His thing was to switch to Mutalisk, but that was kind of every Zerg's thing back when viOLet was really competing. But I want to see, you mentioned Swarmos, they're very powerful right now, but they're not necessarily for that player's playstyle. Like, my own even Jadong is actually quite bad with Swarmhost because I don't think they fit into the way his brain works very well.
Yeah, it's something that you have to practice. It always looks easy, you know, it looks like, there's just a unit sitting there rallying 3 units. How hard can it be? Do you really need to practice that? But it's so timing sensitive, like everything on this level. We see HuK Scout. It's very funny because the last PvZ that I casted of HuK was actually against Revival, a Zerg that's relatively similar to viOLet, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe a little different by now, but once upon a time their playstyles were quite close, also competing a lot in online tournaments. And it was also on Cross and it was the exact same spawning location. Back then, HuK tried to go for a small gateway push, like it was not like gateway all in, but he had hidden pylons on the left side of the map and he tried to deny the third base. But the moment you warp in 6 to 9 zealots and you won't take down that hatchery, I'm sure that you can attest to that as well. You're in a little bit of trouble because suddenly you're sitting there with all these zealots. It's like, well, I can't run them in against roaches because it's not going to do a whole lot. And, you know, bringing them home, they're also not super efficient. So if HuK decides to go for something similar, it is extremely important that it just goes all out with it and at least take down that hatchery.
Well, to your point too, Kevin, it's the context of when it's happening too that's very important, as we do see an Overlord dying there. That's actually really nice. It's Overlord hunting in the PvZ matchup. Usually you see that in TvZ. But to finish my thought, those 6 or 7 Zealots in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game are super, super detrimental either to the Protoss or to the Zerg, depending on their effectiveness. But as you get later in the game, you can take those pot shots. You know what, 6 or 7 Zealots here. I'm going to go for a hatch cancel or some mineral, some drone harass, as it were. But if that doesn't pay off, okay, you know, you've got more money coming in. But HuK is kind of an early game Protoss. He looks to either use a pivotal tech or a pivotal timing attack with like gateway units or something like that to gain that advantage. That's typically how he plays.
Twilight Council already halfway down over here in the right bottom side of this map, or right top side of the map. There are 2 slow Zerglings that actually managed to make their way through. I'm surprised that viOLet didn't decide to run into the main base. He is still going to try that. This would be really important for viOLet if he gets his scout, because he has no Overlord nearby. Zergling, not gonna get it.
It's very low health, so it was kind of worried of that sentry just phasing it down.
Oh, he does have speed though, and the units are out of position for HuK. I'm a little bit worried Stalker is gonna... he does have photon overcharge, right? So even if they run by, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would be bad. It would be quite bad, but he's gonna be home with that.
This is actually really interesting, Kevin, because, you know, again, we talked about HuK's playstyle. It's very well known. I feel like this early speed from viOLet is one of the ways that he's saying, okay, gateway expand, you're HuK, I'm worried about a gateway timing attack, so I'm gonna go ahead and open for speed. It's a very good shutdown option here, but as we can see now, Kevin, it is going to be Dark Shrine. Now, where this speed really helps is it gives map control to the Zerg player. HuK doesn't have a probe or a pylon out in the map unless my eyes deceive me, and that means DTs would potentially have to walk all the way across the map, and that, honestly, to put a number to it, that cuts their effectiveness down by a good, I don't know, 80% or something like that.
I couldn't agree more with you. I truly think that's the thought process that went through viOLet. viOLet is definitely a play that has prepared for this tournament. All right, I'm opening up the tournament against HuK. You know what? I'm just going to open up with speed, just so I make sure that there won't be that probe very close, hidden around my base, suddenly dropping a pylon, and I get caught off guard by a bunch of gateway units. I don't want this to happen. I'm going to get a lot of map control. Slightly hurts his economy early on, but it's really not the end of the world. And it's already working out for him. Maybe not in the way that he expected, but as you said, Dark Templars have to warp in from the main base. They have to walk all the way across the map. There is a Zergling here.
It's a question of whether or not he saw that. It would be
but he has
pretty...
Spore Crawlers anyway.
Exactly, and you know, I was just going to talk about that. It's one of the kind of dangers of going Dark Shrine at this point in time is because, you know, viOLet did not scout the Dark Shrine, but what he says to himself is more often than not, it's either Stargate or it's potentially Dark Shrine. Dark Shrine being the more infrequent one, but these Spore Crawlers are all encompassing. So here comes the DT. It can solo that Queen, but with these roaches popping out, there's no hope there. Spore Crawler up in the main as well. And that DT just gets pinned back. It might get it gets a drone for its efforts, but for the cost, not worth it at all.
Well, not as well. That's actually, I mean, this was pretty unfortunate. And I think it's safe to say that in the Wings of Liberty days, if you open up like this and you did such little damage with your Dark Templar, it was almost game over. You know, the Zerg player is going to max out on roaches. He's going to run across the map, and there's almost no way to hold. I think for now there is still a chance for HuK because viOLet's economy wasn't like absolutely ridiculous. He's 11 working down. He does have a pretty quick base, but it's going to be extremely important that HuK's going to drop some great force fields and, you know, somehow buys time to get Immortals out, because without
Kevin,
Immortals, it's
I could not agree more. Like, you bring up a really good point. In Heart of the Swarm, the difference between Wings of Liberty and that now is we do have Photon Overcharge. It kind of gives you a pretty big buff to the early game defensibility. So Protoss, they have a little bit more forgiveness. This Dark Templar attack obviously did next to nothing. Killing one drone, certainly not worth the cost. It's still going to be an uphill climb for HuK because that build cuts a lot out of the way in terms of tech. But what it does do, I guess, is it gives him enough time that it has to be Overseers and Roaches. And in that time, the big question is, can HuK get enough out? It's going to have to be Immortals. It's going to have to be Stalkers. And like you said, really good force fields.
And this is interesting though, because in a way, maybe you're happy with this if you're HuK. Because if HuK defensive, if he doesn't lose this base and he doesn't lose too many important units, he's in a good position again, because viOLet doesn't really have anything else going for himself other than Roaches. But a lot of speed Roaches are making their way across the map. I believe they have Burrow as well. Yes, they do. So this cannon is really important. There's an Observer as well. Guardian Shield being popped immediately. I mean, if HuK doesn't take damage, which is going to be hard, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Then he's in a really good position.
Mortal's about to pop out. Honestly, his whole army is kind of chasing a ghost. It's a smaller fragment of the army. The Nexus is what's the big question here, and there's enough Roaches here to perhaps focus it down. We're going to see that now. Zergling's pulling in here as well. Sentries are exposed. Force fields are late. They're not there, and the Nexus is down. That means no foes can overcharge, and of course, the expense of not having that base. But that being said, HuK is able to chase off the Roaches. I think one of the big tragedies here, Kevin, is he lost a majority of his sentries in the back there.
Yes, I wonder if HuK is going to try to counterattack immediately. It would be risky because there are so many Roaches on the production tab. Of course, you know, if you have 61 drones spread over 3 bases and you're making only Roaches, well, you're going to have a good time because you're going to have a lot of Roaches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're not quite snowball units, but their numbers can become overwhelming. Like Blink Stalker's very good against them, but if you don't have things like force fields or heavy hitters like Immortals in high count, eventually the Roaches get in there. Now you can see this. viOLet is going to look to do some sneaky tactics. HuK, it's a question, did he button up his natural? He sniffed it out, or at least is in position to execute over this. And this could be a really nice move for HuK if he can capture all these Roaches.
He's probably not going to get all of them, but he should get at least a couple of them. viOLet's going to try to unburrow on top of the sentries. No, he changed his mind. Well, this is very nice indeed. No, you cannot force to burrow Roaches.
I like the thought, though. It's like, hey, if you pop up, man, you're not doing much up there. But, again, it's viOLet using his advantage right now. But as we say that, we can see the supply is kind of closing up. Right now, he lost a cannon, and in doing so, he kills a good few Roaches. And here we go.
Observe,
like HuK trying to come over here as well.
Yeah, these cannons are really important. I kind of wish that HuK would have walked them in before, because this is going to be extremely frustrating. And we do see that Swarmos transition is on the way for viOLet.
Well, that answers that.
Yeah, but this is going to hurt, because we all know, like, if your detection is not in place, if you don't have 2-3 observers, you're going to lose, you know, probes pretty much in every single place.
Yeah, I will say this though, while the probe press could have been, actually HuK with a little bit of a mistake here. The cannon should finish and it'll make this a lot less painful, but it's still going to cost you a lot of probes. HuK is getting to 3 base. Now, Kevin, this is where I get really concerned. No Colossus out yet. No range on Colossus. What do we left?
People run with that joke, yeah.
What?
With your EG bias, like HuK is getting to 3 bases. This is where I get really concerned.
Oh, no, that's a good joke though. I should have made that, thank you. No, my concern is you need AoE to deal with those swarm hosts. And not only has HuK been preoccupied, so he hasn't used Hallucinated Phoenix to scout him out, he's not really in position, even army composition-wise, to be able to handle them. He's getting there. You can see the range, you can see the Colossus, but ideally it's like 2 Robo and an untouched economy. So far we've seen viOLet has done a great job of making that economy very touched. Very touched.
Yep, a lot of workers have gone wrong throughout the entire game. 23 pros, but I must say, I still think that is a number that HuK can perhaps work with, and that's a number he can live with as well. These swarm modes are definitely a problem. They're close. We have 10 swarm. Yeah. Maybe the best thing for HuK is to, the moment, though, I actually don't know yet. I'm trying to figure out what is the best thing to do, but if he avoids it, he loses his Nexus in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
If he starts fighting it, he's gonna lose units.
Well, yeah, without Colossus, there's nothing you do about it, but the thing that HuK could do is perhaps counterattack behind them, because the support's not fantastic. If you look over there, great control from viOLet. He sniffs out that pseudo counterattack and says, nope, not today, Zealots. They do not stand a chance against this combination of Locusts and Roaches, and HuK, he was not ready for this. He's having a tough time. He's reeling, and that supply differential has grown exponentially. It's now a 90 supply advantage. And this is quintessential viOLet StarCraft, harassed from the Roaches, for being super aggressive with Swarm Host and applying pressure from the very first minute.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. viOLet always an aggressive player, trying to create entertaining games as well. he played this very well. I really felt that HuK was hanging in there for a good time. Like, it wasn't that there were still a lot of roaches around. I felt that he was very close to the point of stabilizing, but as you said, the economy was touched a little bit, and he just didn't have time to get double Robo Colossus out in time. He has 2 Colossus right now. That is something, but 1 Colossus might actually get sniped over here by these roaches.
He's going to go around, and yes, he gets that final Colossus. That means HuK has no Colossus to his name. He's even producing an Immortal right now. Not quite sure about that choice. It must have been, I don't know, I don't have enough money. I need something faster. I don't know, but the third is on its last legs. It's certainly not being mined from it, and it looks like viOLet is just crushing on his way. And to your point earlier, too, you said, you know, HuK has the right number of probes. His economy's not super fast, and honestly, I agree with you, but where the real harm occurred is that it slowed down his tech and it denied information. HuK was so taxed mechanically, he did not see this coming. And if you don't see it coming, you're not able to set things like Warp Prison for counterattacks, I don't know, anything else, or faster Colossus, but he just didn't have it in time.
And of course, props to viOLet as well for going Swarm mode on the exact right moment, because we were about to enter that phase in the game where roaches alone were just not going to cut it anymore. There were cannons everywhere, there were enough Blink Stalkers, HuK had a solid 3-base economy. viOLet needed something else desperately right on that moment. If he would have gone for Hydras, it would have probably been a poor choice, because if the 1 or 2 Colossus would make a very good field. This was the right moment to go Swarm mode. He also didn't overdo it. He still complemented it with a lot of roaches on the side. It was well played by viOLet. HuK is going to try to make something happen, but ow.
And he's going to tap out here. viOLet takes that first game. And to go back to something you said as well that I really liked is viOLet played to the map. Kevin, you and I talked about, Frost can either be like one of the worst maps to go Swarm Host on, or it can be one of the best depending on where you spawn. And in those kind of pseudo-close spawn locations, I feel like you make a really brilliant point. If he would have gone Hydra, HuK can just kind of naturally, his army is not so bad against that. It comes down to force fields and blinks, of course, but against Swarm Host, it's pretty cut and dry. You have to have AoE, and it's preferably Colossus, because even Archons or Storm, they're either finite or they get up close to those Locusts and they take damage.
Yeah, and HuK didn't have the army to really deal with the Locusts in any other way than having a lot of Colossus, because like none of his